So today we have the first Lunch and Learn that I've been a part of, so I'm excited to see how this works and how it goes as far as um, getting the information out there. We have Jane Toll, who is going to talk about healthy snacking at work, and she is coming to us from MSU Extension. In the chat, there are some specs there that give some information about Jane's background. Uh, she has been kind enough to offer to do this hour lunch and learn for us. So if she would like to start, that's I'm ready to let this lunch and learn begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Let's go ahead and get started. So as Randy said, my name is Jane Toll, and I'm a community nutrition instructor through Michigan State University Extension. So I talk to people about food, and not just food, but ways that we can eat healthy foods that are nutritious for us without spending a lot of money and without having to put a lot of time and effort into it. So today we're going to focus mostly on how we can eat healthy snacks while we're on the go, whether that be work or taking care of kids or whatever we have to do that keeps us busy throughout the day, because it's important that we fuel our bodies with food. So as a reminder, MSU Extension does not discriminate against any participants. Everyone is welcome to take our classes, and they are free of charge. So the first thing that I would like to have you all do is fill out a short survey for me. So there is a QR code up here on the screen. You're welcome to take out your phone and pull up the QR code. You just have to pull up your camera and focus it on that black and white square. Or I sent Randy the link to the survey, so that should be coming to you all in the chat. We've also got that link up here on the slide as well. So again, my name is Jane, and I work in Kalamazoo County mostly, but I also help out over in the Battle Creek area, and it's wonderful to be with you all today virtually at the DLA. So the first thing I would like to have us do is we are going to start with a poll. So I'm going to put this in the chat real quick. So when you have a second, after filling out that enrollment form, go ahead and open up the JOT form poll that I sent you. So today we're going to be talking about how we can identify what a healthy snack is, how we can look at a food and think about what kind of nutrients might be in this food. Is this food going to help to keep me full? Is this food high in calories or is it lower in calories? Does this food contain a high amount of sugar or salt or fat? These are all different ways that we can assess foods to think about whether they are healthy for us or not. And it's just a forewarning here before we get any further into the material. I want to let everyone know that none of this conversation about food and snacking is meant to place blame or shame or guilt on anyone. While we might throw around a few words such as good foods or bad foods here in this conversation, there's really no such thing as a good food or a bad food, and we should all eat the foods that we want to eat. So no blame, shame, or guilt for anyone and how they like to eat their food. All right, so on the screen, we've got a My Plate here. So you can put it in the chat if you guys have heard of My Plate before. My Plate is what replaced the food pyramid. So My Plate took over the food pyramid in 2011. So any of us who were back in school in 2011 still, we might have seen My Plate before in a cafeteria or in a health classroom, or maybe any kind of recreational area. But for some of us, My Plate might be a little bit new. So My Plate, instead of having a pyramid set up showing us what foods we should eat and how frequently. My plate's a little bit more simple. We use this picture that's a plate because a lot of us eat on plates, we eat off of plates. And so this is the kind of meal that we are realistically thinking about creating. We might think about having a plate that has any combination of these 5 food groups here. We've got fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy. So when it comes to snacks, and specifically when we talk about eating healthy snacks at work, we don't need to focus on finding a healthy snack that has all 5 food groups, right? That might not be super feasible for us to do every time we want a snack. So we're going to talk about ways that we can eat healthy without having to make our plate or our snack food look exactly like my plate. So thinking about serving sizes versus portion sizes. So a serving size, this is going to be something that we read about on the back of a food or a beverage. Thinking about that nutrition facts label that's on the back of foods and beverages, that's going to tell us a specific measurement. Usually it's in cups or sometimes it's in grams. You might see that serving size and it's going to tell you that specific measurement. So that's going to be different than what a portion size is. A portion size is a little bit more informal of a term. And so that's talking about the amount that we would actually put onto our plates and eat at one time. So if we were thinking about, let's say a scoop of black beans. So on the can of black beans, the serving size might say, let's say 1/4 of a cup or 1/2 of a cup of beans. The portion size, so the amount that we actually eat of those black beans, might be a little bit more or a little bit less than that 1/2 a cup. Most of the time, we don't sit there and measure out every single thing we eat. So it's good to have an understanding here that we might not eat exactly what the serving size says, but we can use the serving size if we want to get an idea of how much we're eating, how many calories we're eating, how many grams of sugar we're getting from that food. So it can be helpful to remember that. So I'd said before that when we think about making healthy snacks, we don't always have to get 5 food groups on our plate to make a healthy snack. To make a snack nutritious for us, we can focus on just including 2 of the 5 food groups. So fruits and vegetables, or vegetables and grains, or protein and dairy, any combination of 2 of those food groups is going to give us a snack that we can consider, for the most part, to be healthy for us. And so the reason that including 2 food groups is healthy is because there are different nutrients in all of the foods that we eat. So every different food is going to have slightly different amounts of vitamins and minerals and different kinds of vitamins and minerals. So if we're eating multiple food groups, we are increasing the total amount of those nutrients that we're putting into our bodies every day. When we pick a snack that is nutritious and has 2 food groups, most likely it's going to keep us more full over time. And as a result, we'll also be eating more fiber, more vitamins, more minerals. So what I'd like us to do now is I'm going to show you a picture here, and go ahead and put in the chat for me, what is another food group or just another thing that you could add to these crackers to get a healthy snack with 2 food groups? So I've given you the crackers, and those are grains. Tell me, what are some things we could eat with these crackers? And I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second. Cheese, string cheese, peanut butter. Yeah, slices of meat. Yeah, all good ideas. Okay, so the next one is going to be here. So an apple. Tell me, what are some foods that you could pair with an apple if you were going to take that apple with you to work? And you can get creative here. Maybe you have cut the apple up and put it into slices before you go to work. Or maybe you happen to have an apple cutter, or you have a little bit of a kitchen space at your work where you'd be able to cut the apple up while you're already at work. What are some things you could pair with this? Almond butter, yogurt dip, seconding the peanut butter. Yeah, so speaking of yogurt and nut butter here, so one recipe that I like to make myself that can be a really, really good pairing with apples is combining, just in a small bowl, you combine about 2 parts yogurt and 1 part either peanut butter or almond butter, cashew butter, whatever you like. Mix those 2 together and then also top it with some cinnamon. And that can be a really, really, really good dip to have with apple slices. All right, and so this one isn't on here, but I'm just going to give you a third one. What if you had some carrot slices? What if you had carrot or little pieces of carrots, baby carrots? What's a second food group that you could put with those vegetables to get a healthy snack? So with carrots, I would think certainly about something maybe like hummus. So pairing it with cream cheese, portioning out that serving size worth of ranch dressing could be a good idea. So making sure that we're not over portioning, getting a large amount of ranch dressing, but using a small cup or a Tupperware for some dressing. Yogurt, vegetable dip, French onion dip. Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a dip either. So just almonds, bringing a handful of almonds, sliced cucumbers. Yeah, so a lot of healthy foods, a lot of foods that are part of the My Plate can be finger foods, can be really quick, easy snacks for us to make. All right, so now tell me, we're going to play a game called This or That. Tell me 1 or 2, which one of these is the healthier beverage? 1 or 2. Number 2, people are saying 2, the milk. Yeah, so what are some reasons why you think the milk is healthier than the juice or the lemonade that's on the left? So less sugar in the milk. What do you think the milk might contain that the juice might not have? So not only does that milk not have as much sugar, but what it does have is it has calcium. It's got vitamins A and D. It's got protein, and also it's got potassium. All right, yeah, I see them coming in now. Vitamins, protein, calcium, yes. So milk is a food that we would mostly we put it into our dairy category of My Plate, but there is an argument for milk being a source of protein too. Milk has about 8 grams of protein per cup, and that's true for any kind of milk. So even both skim milk and whole milk, you're going to find the same amount of protein, 8 grams in a glass of both of those. All right, moving on. Okay, 1 or 2, the popcorn or crinkle cut chips? Some are saying 1, some are saying 2. So we got a little bit of a mixture here. So those of you who say number 1 is healthier, what do you think that makes popcorn healthier than chips? Maybe it takes less oil to make it. Popcorn is whole grains. Yes, Donna, that is correct. So popcorn is a whole grain food, and whole grains are going to give us more fiber and more B vitamins than would refined grains or non-whole grains. Oh, and if it was air popped instead of fried, yeah, that's a good point. So there's different ways for us to cook popcorn, and that may include the things we use to cook with the popcorn. So thinking about the oils and the butters. When we have popcorn that is low in salt and doesn't have a lot of butter on it, you're going to be able to get more popcorn for less calories than the chips. So see here in this picture, we see the serving size of popcorn in a bowl versus the serving size of those crinkle cut chips in a bowl. And you can see that you get a lot more popcorn for your serving size than the chips. Lisa asked, what about coconut oil and air popped popcorn? Yes, Lisa, that can be a good substitute for other kinds of oils that we use and a good substitute for butter. Canola oil is another good substitute for things like butter because it's heart healthy for us. It's considered a form of unsaturated fats for us to use. And let's look at one more here. So number 1 versus number 2. So the ones on the left are whole wheat crackers. We could think of them like wheat thins, or the ones on the right here are butter crackers. What do you think is going to be the healthier choice? I'm seeing a lot of number ones. And you all saying number 1 are right here. So something else I want to point out here, this picture also is showing the serving sizes for each of these. So it's the plate shows you whatever the nutrition facts label is saying is the recommended amount for one person to eat at one time. So you can tell from the left side here that you probably get at least 10 or 12 crackers of the whole wheat crackers. And for the butter crackers, you only get 5 for your serving size. And so we don't have these nutrition facts labels pulled up in front of us, but we can make a pretty good guess to say that those whole wheat crackers are lower in calories, lower in calories than those than the butter crackers are, because we're getting less of them for the same serving size. So we have talked about the My Plate a little bit and how we've got our 5 food groups, right? Fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy. So when we think about eating food, one way that we can think about different foods is using the 5 food groups. But that's not the way that we can divide and categorize every food that we eat, because a lot of foods contain more than one food group. They're combinations of other food groups. So another way we can think about the foods we eat is by this method called go, slow, and whoa foods. So we can think of it kind of like a traffic light, where we've got the green light foods at the top. Green light means that we can go and eat those foods anytime we wanted to. Foods that we could eat every day without making us sick or being unhealthy for our bodies. Slow foods are going to be foods that are okay for us to have. They're not very, very, very unhealthy, but we don't want to eat them every single day either. These would be foods that would be healthy for us to have maybe once or twice a week, but not exceeding that. And then finally, we have our whoa foods here. Whoa foods are just something we can think of as special occasion foods. So those don't have to be foods that we restrict ourselves from eating or that we can never have, but maybe they're foods that we save for special occasions or for once every couple of weeks. So just really quickly here, could you guys put in the chat some examples of go foods? So those green light foods that you could have them every day and you wouldn't get sick and your body would stay healthy. So veggies, green veggies. Yeah, that's a good one. So when we think about foods like spinach and broccoli, they're kind of like superfoods because they go into our vegetable group, but they've also got a lot of the important essential nutrients that our body needs, even including small amounts of proteins. I'm seeing also tofu. Yes, absolutely. So for people who don't eat meat or just people who choose not to eat meat, tofu can be a good substitute for protein foods. Whole grains, yeah, that's a good one. So it's recommended for us to try to make half of the grain foods we eat be whole grains. So we don't have to try to search the food label and figure out whether every single cracker or every single cereal we eat is whole grain. But if we try to make half the food we eat whole grains, our bodies are going to be in pretty good shape. Fruit. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, how about slow foods? So foods that we can still enjoy, but maybe closer to just once or twice a week. Couple times a week. Potato-based foods, red meat. Yeah, red meat is a good one. And so the reason I say that is because with protein foods, it's really important for our bodies to have a variety of different protein foods. So meaning that if we eat meat, we want to try to eat different kinds of animal sources, different kinds of meat, not only eating beef all the time or not only eating chicken all the time, but having some of each, including some turkey or including some fish. And then thinking about non-meat sources of protein, we've got things like beans and nuts and seeds. So definitely that form of meat could be a good slow food. Frozen yogurt, that's a good one. Okay, how about woe foods? So those foods that we might want to just think about saving for special occasions. Once every couple weeks, maybe. Almond toffee. Maybe ice cream. So yeah, so we can think about how this idea of portion sizing and serving sizes that we talked about earlier can factor into go slow, whoa. So one thing I would point out is maybe thinking about pizza. So maybe pizza is a whoa food if that is your whole dinner and your whole dinner is eating 2 or 3 or 4 big slices of pizza. Maybe that's a whoa food for you. But if we took pizza and maybe we had 1 slice of pizza and then had a side salad or had some vegetables or had some fruit or whatever with it, that could be more of a slow meal. Same thing with ice cream. So ice cream, maybe if we have just our 1 small scoop of ice cream once or twice a week, that can be a slow food for us. And maybe it's just every couple weeks that we go and we get that large sundae with all the toppings on it, or we get the flurries made and the blizzards. Maybe those are our whoa foods, and 1 small scoop of vanilla is our slow food. So there are ways to fit in the foods that we like to eat into our lifestyle and still be healthy. We don't have to completely give up slow foods and whoa foods to live a healthy life. And I'm also seeing a comment in the chat, bananas being a whoa food or a slow food because of the sugar. So yes, fruit does contain sugar. So that is sugar that is going to be naturally occurring in the fruit. And if we are people that eat a lot of sugar, if we consume a lot of sugar, especially from processed foods, that fruit that we eat is still going to be a more healthy choice than eating the processed sugars or the processed foods that have sugar in them. So it depends, but with fruit, as long as we're not eating 6 cups of fruit every single day, we don't have to worry too much about the sugars that are in fruit. Of course, every person is different and every person has different health histories. So if you are ever considering starting a more rigorous diet plan, or you have specific questions about your body and your needs and foods, make sure to talk to your doctor about that. Now what we are going to do is a quick stretch break. So as part of all nutrition programs at MSU Extension, we do a short amount of physical activity, because eating food and the choices that we make around what food we eat isn't the only thing that determines whether we're healthy or not. So exercise and being physically active is a big part of taking care of our bodies. So what we're going to do now is I invite you all to stand up wherever you're at. You can keep your camera off. And I'm going to show on the screen here. So we've got some instructions. You should all see here: snack attack, stretch break. If you see a food on the screen that is a go food, march in place. If I click a food up on the screen that is a slow food, you are going to step side to side. So step side to side like this, or you can step side to side, do a little kick on each side. Whoa, if I click a food that is a whoa food, you're gonna do some air punches here, just in place like this. All right, so if everybody is ready, I'm gonna get started here. Here's the first food, and I'm gonna say this is a go food. So I'm gonna march in place and engage both my arms and my legs. All right. Next one, ice cream. Oh, that ice cream on a cone. Let's say this is a whoa food. I'm going to call this a whoa food, but you guys can make your own call. It's going to be go, slow, or whoa, and we're going to be moving around no matter what. This would be an exercise that if you had dumbbells or weights, wrist weights, or ankle weights, you could be able to make those punches more challenging. Okay, wine. We didn't talk about this one, but we're going to consider wine a whoa food. So just a once in a while type of food. So keep doing those air punches. Next, a pretzel. So the pretzel, we're going to say slow for this one. We're going to say slow. And thinking about that pretzel and ways that we could make it healthier, we can think about the salt that we might put on the pretzel. We could think about any kind of sauce that we dip the pretzel in. Is that going to be a sauce that is high in fat and high in calories? Or could we find a more low calorie sauce to dip our pretzel in? Or do we need a sauce at all? Fast food. Fast food, we're going to say that this is a whoa food. And I would make the argument that if we were eating just maybe one side item from a fast food restaurant, one small side item, size small, that could be something that's more of a slow food. But when we think about a whole meal from a fast food restaurant, so getting a drink and a sandwich and a side, we are most likely going to consume as many calories as are recommended for our bodies for the entire day. So for most people, that's around 2,000. And that can be what you get when you eat an entire fast food meal. So then thinking about a hot dog here, this is going to be a slow food. It can be a whoa food depending on, again, the portion size. So do we eat one hot dog or do we eat 5 hot dogs? And also the toppings. So do we add foods that are high in fat or high in calories on top of the hot dog? Next, a cupcake, oh, or a muffin, you choose. So I'm gonna say that this one is a cupcake, and I'm gonna do some punches for whoa foods. All right, grapes. This is gonna be a go food. We get to march in place. We've got another go food finally. Okay. All right, hot tea. So this is going to be a go food, right? So hot tea, especially if this is an unsweetened tea, if we don't add anything to that hot tea or that iced tea that we're drinking. Sweetened tea or unsweetened tea does not have any sugar in it. So that can be a go food. Next, some chicken. So this could be a slow food or it could be a go food. I'm going to say that this is a slow food. But again, it could depend on the way that we cook the chicken. So do we bread the chicken and deep fry it? Because if we do, that's going to add fat and it's going to add calories to it. We could think about how much chicken we have at one time. So it's recommended to have about a 3 to 4 ounces as a protein serving for a meal. Couple more here, popcorn. This is what we're going to consider a slow food. We're going to consider it a slow food because it can be very easy for us to overeat popcorn or to have more than even a portion size. However, if we think about minding our portion sizes and maybe being careful about not putting too much salt or too much butter on our popcorn, it could be a go food. Maybe it's a go snack. Okay, finally, candy. Candy, we're gonna say, is a whoa food. Thinking about not just down in our bodies and our tummies, but also thinking about what candy does to our teeth. It can be a good idea to save candy for special occasions. All right, and now I'm gonna shake it all out. And just gonna do a little bit of stretching here. So feel free to join me in this if you would like to. You do not have to. So I'm gonna cross my arm over to this side now. And I'm gonna give myself a little bit of room behind me here and stick both arms high up towards the ceiling. Feel that stretch and slowly bend over and just fold forward here. Just let your arms fall wherever they fall. You don't have to reach down and try to touch your toes. And now slowly start to roll your back up, one vertebrae at a time. And finally, to finish up, I'm just gonna make some circles here with my shoulders. Stretch this area out a little bit. And as I take my seat, I'm going to make one final stretch here, just turning my neck slowly from side to side. All right, so thank you for joining me in that physical activity break. So as a reminder, it is recommended for adults to get about 2.5 hours of exercise a week. So 2.5 hours of exercise over 7 days would split into about 20 minutes a day if you were doing exercise 7 days a week, or that would translate to 5 times a week for 30 minutes. So there's different ways that we can split up our physical activity during the day. We don't have to do all of our exercise at one time. And it's important to note that activities that we do around the house just to stay active can still count towards our physical activity. So thinking about things that we do like washing the dishes, washing the floor, taking out the trash, shoveling snow, dusting the snow off of our cars. These are all physical activities that we can count as exercise for the day. So it's important for us to just try to move around as much as possible. Right? If we have a job or if we have a lifestyle that makes it difficult for us to go and exercise in a gym and pay for a gym membership, then we can find different ways to be able to move around and get that physical activity time in. So being physically active doesn't require a membership. It doesn't require hundreds of dollars a year. It really just requires you to find some activities that make you happy or that you do throughout the day anyway that help you move around. All right. So tell me in the chat now, what are some, you can tell me one, what are some of your favorite snacks that aren't super healthy, maybe not so healthy? So either a slow food or a whoa food, if we were going to think of them that way. What would be one food? Popcorn, Reese's, Nutella, pecans. Yeah, these are all good examples. So when we think about portion size, that can be one way to potentially change that food from being not so healthy to be able to take it to being a little bit healthier for us. So I think these were all good examples in the chat, especially the popcorn example. We talked about that during the physical activity break. So popcorn by itself, it is a whole grain food and it's healthy for us when we don't add a lot of butter and a lot of salt to it, and we don't eat too much of it at one time. So thinking about different My Plate foods, using different My Plate foods, how could we take popcorn? What are some foods we could even add to popcorn or have with popcorn to make it a little bit healthier? Any ideas? I think it would be good to add a few nuts to a bag of popcorn, make it almost like a trail mix. That could be good. Maybe even some raisins or some dried fruit. Using less salt, replace the salt with a spice. Yeah, that's a really good idea, Lynn, definitely. Pepper instead of salt, good idea. Using Parmesan cheese, garlic, or nuts, I like that. Olive oil instead of butter, non-salt seasoning, good one, Donna. Yeah, these are all really great ideas. I especially like the idea of using things like garlic or spices so that we get a chance to try some new foods, to be creative and experiment with some healthy options for flavoring our food. Using cinnamon or chili pepper. Yeah, these are all really good ideas. So besides popcorn, let's pick one more food to brainstorm. How about if you were going to actually make your own trail mix and take it with you to work? Thinking about healthy snacks at work. If you had free reign over any ingredients, anything you could put in your trail mix, what would you include in your trail mix to keep it healthy? Raw nuts. That's a good one. Dried cranberries. One idea that I've had is taking whole grain cereal as a base for your trail mix instead of using something like crackers that are refined grains or Cheez-Its. Some people put things like Cheez-Its in their trail mix. I think taking a cereal, just a whole grain cereal, can be a really good base for some of those grain foods in the trail mix. Granola, almonds, cranberries. Dark chocolate mini chips versus using M&Ms. That's a fantastic one. Yeah, so dark chocolate is a little bit healthier for our hearts. It's got a little bit less fat, less sugar in it than milk chocolate does. So using those dark chocolate or dark chocolate mini chips, that's a great idea. All right, so and yes, Donna, using seeds, incorporating different seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, good one. All right, I've got a short video for us now that I'm going to play.
When it comes
Are you able to hear it okay?
to snacks, small changes can add up to.
Oops. Sorry about that. One more time.
When it comes to snacks, small changes can add up to big wins. Do you normally snack on this? Make a switch. Do this one time and save over 200 milligrams of sodium. Do this 3 times a week for a year and save over 30,000 milligrams. Or is this more like your snack of choice? Why not try this? Do this one time and save 15 grams of saturated fat. Do this once a week for a year and save 780 grams. Small changes can really add up. Share your wins using hashtags #MyPlateMyWin.
All right, I really like that video because it shows you how much, using the math, how many grams that you will save in saturated fat if you replaced that popcorn with less butter one time. It's a fantastic video. Awesome. So to kind of reiterate here, when we are thinking about making snacks and especially taking snacks to work, I want to point out that we can create healthy snacks in 5 minutes or less. So we do not have to take the time, take hours out of our weekend to meal prep, go grocery shopping, and make these really complicated healthy meals. It is perfectly okay for us to spend just a couple minutes and make a healthy snack to take to work with us. So thinking kind of on this image here, bottom right corner with the watermelon, the cheese, and the crackers. So this could be a matter of us just getting the right Tupperware containers or getting a box of sandwich bags so that we can take that food from the kitchen right to work with us. I also want to point out that healthy snacks can include any of the 5 food groups. We're not limited to just eating things like fruit or vegetable slices or whole grains. So we've got a little bit of like a canned tuna here on a cracker. That is a meal that would take, 2 minutes to prepare. We could think about bringing whole pieces of fruit with us to work and having them laid out for us. If we have an office space, if we've got a kitchen space where we're able to keep our own food at work, we could motivate ourselves to eat healthy by just bringing that healthy food in and having it right there. And something else that I want to point out with this page here is we are most likely going to save a lot of money if we bring the snacks from home right to work instead of stopping on the way to get food at a gas station or in a pharmacy, or thinking about the vending machine prices that might be at our work. So it might sound like, or it might seem like a little bit of that extra effort to prepare the snack at home before you bring it to work, but in the long run, it truly is going to be saving you money, not having to stop somewhere and buy a snack every day. It's more cost effective for us to buy one big box of crackers than buying a small bag of crackers every day for 5 days. So some other ideas here that I want to touch on. Again, prepping ahead of time. So even though it might take that extra 5 or 10 minutes in the morning to get a snack ready to take to work, it can be less stressful if you don't have to plan out where you're going to go and get that snack once you're on the road. So if you know that you're going to be hungry every day at 3 o'clock or at 11 o'clock in the morning, if you know that you're going to want to eat a snack anyway, it might save you some time and some stress to just bring it from your home. And in order to make that easier, it can be really helpful to contain or to have these containers, these Tupperware containers. So we don't have to spend the big bucks to get a brand name glass container to carry our food in every day that has different dividers and different colors. It's okay for us to save the containers that we have we've already eaten the food out of, right? We can think about the cottage cheese containers or the lunch meat containers that we don't use, maybe even those hard plastic ice cream containers. These are all things that we can reuse and use to put snack foods in. We want to remember that if we are bringing foods to work that usually are refrigerated, we want to try to continue that practice by either bringing food in a small cooler, if we've got a cooler and a small ice pack, or we want to find a spot at our work to be able to refrigerate that food. And the reason that we care about that is because bacteria can grow significantly higher when it's in the temperature danger zone. The temperature danger zone is from 41 degrees to 140 degrees. So when we think about conditions either inside buildings or outdoors for work, most of the time we're going to be in that temperature danger zone. It's going to be 41 degrees to 140 degrees out. So that's why it's important for us to keep those cold foods cold, because if that food sits out in the danger zone for more than 2 hours, it's not considered safe to be eaten anymore. So if we're having our snack partway through the workday, we want to keep it refrigerated so that 2 hours hasn't gone by without it being refrigerated. The last thing I would note here is we really can be creative when it comes to building snacks. So if you're someone that really, really has never liked raisins, well, there's no need for you to try to force yourself to eat snack foods that have raisins in them just for the sake of raisins being a dried fruit and it's healthy. No, there are so many types of healthy foods out there for us to eat that we should focus on the foods that we like eating, things that we know where we can find them. We know the general price or what to expect as far as budgeting for that item. Those are going to be good foods for us to focus on prepping to have as snacks at work. And so One other thing I want to stop and show us here for a minute, because we've talked about whole grains. All right, so I'm going to share my screen one more time. So you should all see here, do you all see a picture of a whole grain on the screen? It's a drawn grain and it's got 3 parts to it. So we've got the germ, which is the inside. We've got the endosperm, which is this big middle part here. And this is the main part of the grain, and it's what is kept in refined grains. The bran here is the exterior, and this is a nice big chunk of fiber here, the bran. So when grains get refined, they take off the bran and they kind of crack the grain open and take out the germ from the inside. So the bran and the germ are removed from refined grains. Refined grains are left with the endosperm. So in general, it's healthier for us to be eating whole grains because that means we're also consuming that bran and that germ, and we're getting extra fiber from that. Now, we can tell whether whole grains are in a food by using the ingredients list. So this picture here is a food label. And so it shows that whole grain wheat is the first ingredient listed here. And so ingredients are listed in order of prominence, really, like how prominent is the ingredient in the food, how much of it is found in the food. So because this is a whole grain food, we're going to look for that whole grain ingredient being the first thing on the list, and that's going to be our best indicator that our food is whole grain. So here we see whole grain wheat. Something I want to point out, though, is that sometimes you can be tricked into thinking something is a whole grain even when it's not completely a whole grain food. So here's what I mean by that. So this ingredient list, we see here, it has whole wheat flour, but it's down on the 3rd line. So the first ingredient, meaning the most prominent ingredient found in this food, is enriched wheat flour. Now, enriched wheat flour is not a whole grain. We really want to look for that whole word. We want to look for the phrase whole grain and really see out that whole grain phrase when possible. But we really want to look for that keyword of whole too. Simply using the word wheat doesn't equal whole grain. So enriched wheat flour is not a whole grain. It's been enriched, so it has been tampered with and refined. So I just wanted to make note of that here with whole grains and distinguish the difference a little bit with that. Are there any questions with those food labels? All right. I'm going to take us back to our PowerPoint. Whoops. And I'm sorry, you guys might see my screen that has the next screen on it too, but what are some healthy snacks that you may be inspired to give a try now that we've had this presentation? Were there any pictures, any ideas we talked about that jumped out at you? It is lunch and learn time after all, so I'm sure if we're not hungry yet, we're probably starting to get a little hungry. Any snacks you may be inspired to try now? Hummus. Yeah, Hummus can be made homemade really, really quite simply. The basis of hummus is ground chickpeas. So if you have a can of chickpeas and you have some olive oil, you're basically able to make your own hummus at home. Air fried chickpeas and dried fruit. Yeah, Missy, I have not made air fried chickpeas myself, but I hear those can just be a wonderfully mouth-watering snack to eat. Super crunchy and savory and good. So good, yeah. Dried fruit also, that can be a good one. So when we think of dried fruit, probably raisins is the first thing that comes to mind, but you can find dried mango, dried apple slices, other kinds of fruit as well. Okay, so I'm gonna stop our screen share. And I'm going to end right there and just see in our last couple minutes, does anyone have any questions for me before we end our presentation? Freeze-dried strawberries are the bomb. Yes, I agree with you. They really are. And my introduction to freeze-dried strawberries was that Special K cereal that used to be really popular, that strawberry Special K cereal with freeze-dried strawberries. I couldn't believe how tasty those were. Are salad kits in the store a good choice? So good question. And I would say that they can be a good choice for us, depending on what our other options are, or what our other choices are in the store. So the main thing to be aware of when it comes to the salad kits is the type of dressing. So in general, we want to try to use salad dressing that is low fat. And a lot of salad kits, at least in my experience from what I've seen, tend to be a lot of the really creamy based dressings. Not always the case, but in a lot of cases, it's really creamy based dressings. So when it comes to the store salad kits, I would say it comes down to more about just portioning, making sure that you're not using that entire bag of dressing on half of the lettuce in the salad kit, if that makes sense. So everyone raves about Jamba Juice type smoothies as a healthy choice. Isn't that a lot of sugar? Do you have a favorite low sugar smoothie? So yes, when we are considering using a multitude of different fruits and maybe using some sweeteners or protein powders to mix in there to be smoothies, that's where we can see a lot more sugar increase. So personally, I like to make smoothies with milk in them, with just I just like to use whole milk and then one fruit and then ice and a protein powder is how I would usually make a smoothie to try to be mindful of that amount of sugar. Another really good piece of advice I've heard when it comes to making smoothies is if you are putting, so say you're putting your ingredients in the smoothie cup, if it looks like more fruit than you would be able to eat at one time if you were just eating it piece by piece out of a bowl, then odds are it's probably going to be too much for the smoothie. So a smoothie is, thinking back to the beginning of our presentation, we want to think of a smoothie as more of a snack. So something that is going to tide us over to the next meal. It might not be an entire meal replacement. And it could be, but I'm not a doctor. So if you're considering trying to start any kind of smoothie-based diet or cleanse, that'd be something to talk to your doctor about. I would recommend sticking to just one or two types of fruit. And then again, if it's more fruit than you could see yourself eating piece by piece, it's too much for the smoothie. The last thing I would point out here, because we didn't spend much time talking about this at all, is so the presence of food allergies. So we've got many of us, any of us who have kids, I'm sure have heard about how just more and more people are getting food allergies, either to peanuts or they're having dairy intolerances. And so I would encourage you all to find substitutes for things that you aren't able to have, or for things that your children aren't able to have. Always be on the lookout, keep your eyes open for ways that you can substitute an ingredient in there so that you can still be able to enjoy that food and have it again. Thinking about picky eaters alike and allergies, it can be a good idea to just know of other options, other things that you can substitute. There seems to be an increase in food delivery companies like HelloFresh. I think that these can be a good option depending on what our lifestyle is. So I think that if hypothetically, if you live alone or maybe you live with only one other person, I think that those can be a good option, especially if you're very busy, if you're out of your house a lot or you work long hours. It can be a really good way for you to get nutritious food every day. It can save you that time of going to the grocery store too. But I would just point out that it's not feasible for everyone. They can run to be kind of expensive. And then, well, you would risk the potentially wasting food if they sent you stuff that you didn't like, or, they sent you 10 meals for the week, but you had a lot going on and you went out to dinner with friends for 5 of those meals. Now you've got 5 meals that you didn't need, and you're going to get your new box of HelloFresh and have a lot of extra food. So I think that these can be a good option if they are affordable to us and if they work out with the people that are in our household. I know some companies do give you the option to have food delivered for, 4 people in your family or for 6 people in your family. It depends. You'd also want to make sure that you do have that time to prepare the food every day too. So with HelloFresh, it'll usually give you that ingredient or that recipe instruction sheet, and it'll tell you if it takes 30 minutes to make or an hour to make. So yeah, I would just point out that those foods don't do all the cooking for you. They just send you the ingredients and you still have to do the cooking. In general, whole milk or 2%? Good question. In general, 2% is going to be the healthier one to choose just because of lower amounts of fat. And to point out, as always, so there are different types of fat, and some fats are good for our bodies to have. In general, the fat that comes from animal-based products, so including milk, is going to be more saturated, aka it's not going to be as healthy for our heart. So foods that are high in fat that don't come from animals are going to give us our healthier sources of fat. So 3 examples, olive oil, avocados, and nuts. Those are all fatty foods that are high in those good fats for us to have. But good question. Higher calcium foods other than dairy. I don't believe I know the answer to this. But let me see. So thinking generally here, some other foods that do report having significant amounts of calcium besides dairy, we can think about spinach, rhubarb, sardines, flax seeds, and anchovies. In general, though, milk, cheese, yogurt, those are going to be some of the best sources of calcium. Greek yogurt is exceptionally high in protein as compared to other dairy foods. So if we're looking for protein, I can tell you for dairy foods, Greek yogurt is going to be the best bet. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining this presentation today. And I hope you enjoyed all of this, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.